You're either perfect, or you're not me.
Hey, the time-traveling, bioengineered cryptid Cell remains one of the most enduring fan favorites in Dragon Ball. Even when the arrival of Cell Max, the community still voices a clear desire to see that narcissistic, sharp-tongued perfectionist return to the spotlight. His personality left a mark that newer interpretations haven't quite replicated. Whether he'd be capable of turning a new leaf or if he simply returned to settle his old score with the Saiyans, fans are vocal that they want his return. And this is exactly what we're exploring today. Earlier this week, I put up a poll to see what kind of scenarios you all wanted to dive into next, and the response came through loud and clear. The community wanted to see the best custom battles from Sparking Zero built around that perfect being himself. If you're stopping by for the channel for the first time, this is a series where I spotlight and break down your custom scenarios, all with the goal of keeping the creative energy in the game mode alive and thriving. So grab a snack, settle in, and let's jump into that first scenario. This first story takes place 6 months after the defeat of Majin Buu. Even when the world finally at peace, Magenta and the remnants of the Red Ribbon Army never stopped watching. Their spy drones have continued tracking Goku and his allies, even following him all the way to the planet of the Kais where they witnessed the final moments of Buu's defeat. Armed with the schematics for a new iteration of Cell, Magenta originally planned to take his time, but after seeing the sheer scale of the Saiyan's power, he realizes that he has to pull that trigger immediately. The Red Ribbon Army rounds up the Dragon Balls with the intent of wishing their enemies out of existence, but when Shenron refuses to grant a wish for death, Magenta pivots, wishing to turn the heroes into children before unleashing his creation onto the city. Goku and Vegeta return from a training session only to find themselves reverted to their youth, just as Cell Max begins leveling West City. Two of them can still fight, but their bodies no longer respond with the same force they're used to. The power is there, buried somewhere underneath the surface, yet drawing it out isn't nearly as natural as it once was. Both Saiyans realize that while they can take this monster on, the lack of access to their full power makes this a much steeper climb than they anticipated. Between the lack of Hedo's genius and the missing combat data from the later years of Dragon Ball Super, this version of the bio-android is theoretically much weaker than the one we saw on the big screen, but against two children, he's still a nightmare. Goku is the first to step in, and at the start of the fight, his movements still carry that awkward adjustment of being back in a child's body, but as the battle continues, his instincts begin to settle in again. The rhythm of combat comes back to him piece by piece, and before long he manages to tap into Super Saiyan. Watching from the sideline, Vegeta can already sense something about their opponent. This version of Cell Max feels noticeably weaker than the threat they had expected. In Vegeta's mind, this shouldn't even be a contest. Frustrated, the prince shoves his way into battle, but he quickly finds that his smaller body is a massive handicap. Like Goku before him, he's forced into Super Saiyan just to maintain the pace. While Vegeta is trading blows with the androids, Goku begins to analyze the bio-android's movements. He notices a clear pattern here. Cell Max is desperately shielding the top of his head. Goku calls out that weak spot, but even with that knowledge, Vegeta's speed isn't quite where it needs to be. He pushes himself into Super Saiyan 2, using the burst of power to pin Cell Max in place just long enough for Goku to begin charging a massive Kamehameha, aimed directly at the android's head. The plan falls apart though. Cell Max gains the upper hand, hammering Vegeta out of the transformation and turning a massive ki blast towards Goku. Vegeta is left struggling to find his feet, but it's Magenta's trash talk that finally triggers the breakthrough. Being looked down on by such a weak opponent sends Vegeta over the edge, forcing a transformation into Super Saiyan 3. He uses that newfound speed to close the gap and completely vaporize Cell Max with a Big Bang attack. In the aftermath, Magenta manages to slip away into the shadows. Goku is left asking the obvious question, how Vegeta managed to tap into that level of power, but in typical Vegeta fashion, he doesn't get a straight answer. The two take off, heading back to face the much more difficult task of explaining to their families why they're suddenly children again. The timing here creates a fascinating ripple effect. Would Magenta try to bring back another version of Cell in the future? Or if he gives up entirely, would Gohan ever get the beast form? After watching the chaos of Frieza's revival, Dr. Hedo decides to replicate that exact same Dragon Ball ritual with Cell. Initially, the perfect android wants absolutely nothing to do with the new Red Ribbon Army, but Hedo drops an ego-shattering truth on him. At his current level, any of the modern Z warriors could dismantle him in seconds. Disbelieving and furious, Cell demands proof and gets it when the two Gammas effortlessly subdue him. With his perfect pride shattered, he finally agrees to fall in line, and the team vanishes into the shadows. Training along with the Gammas, he spends every day pushed to the absolute brink of exhaustion, actively abusing his Saiyan biology to reap those Zenkai boosts. Meanwhile, Dr. Hedo works behind the scenes patching up the design flaws Gero overlooked. The final product becomes terrifying force far beyond anything Gero could have envisioned. When Cell finally steps back into the light, Hedo broadcasts a message straight to Capsule Corp. The android awaits a challenger at the ruins of the old Cell Games arena. Goku answers the call and the two stand face to face once again. The original scenario pits you against a standard perfect Cell, but thanks to a mod I swapped him out for a perfect form Cell Max. It just fits the narrative flawlessly. The creator of the battle also loaded up Cell with the custom capsules, making his defense feel unbreakable. If you're looking for a challenge, you found it in this one. The choreography mirrors their original clash, but the ferocity gets dialed up to 10. Goku realizes quickly that his standard God-infused Super Saiyan forms fall completely short. The android simply laughs off all the damage Goku's giving him. Eventually, the shockwaves start tearing the Earth apart, forcing Goku into Super Saiyan Blue just to level the playing field. They trade catastrophic blows until Cell gains the upper hand, kicking Goku into a cliffside and leaving his blue aura flickering. Just as the android charges an attack to wipe the planet off the map, the atmosphere shifts. The Saiyan rises to his feet once again, refusing to lose here. Cell is left shocked at Goku's true power as he continues to withstand everything the android throws at him, eventually overpowering him. Recognizing that this monster will never change his ways, Goku charges a swift Kamehameha and erases Cell, closing the book on the perfect being once and for all. I'm a big fan of the core concept and the narrative build up to the match, especially the idea of Hedo opting to refurbish the original Cell rather than starting from scratch. Using the Dragon Balls as a shortcut because they've been tracking them through the spy bots is a genius move that fits perfectly with the Red Ribbon Army's MO. But with that being said, I think the execution could just use a bit more time in the oven to really reach its full potential. We are returning back to a timeline we touched on a video a while ago. To get everyone caught up to speed, Gohan decided to take his training more seriously, seeking out Whis to undergo the exact same regimen as his father. He wants to make sure he can protect his family from the kind of universe-ending threats that constantly target Earth, resulting in him infusing God Ki directly into his ultimate state. During a match with Beerus, Gohan picks up on a terrifyingly familiar key signature echoing across the galaxy. Someone has gathered the Dragon Balls and revived Cell, and that massive surge of energy immediately puts the rest of the cast on high alert. Goku and Vegeta rush straight to the source, confronting the newly resurrected android. Cell makes his motives clear. He wants a rematch with Gohan. The two Saiyans transform into Super Saiyan Blue and prepare for the match. Cell quickly recognizes he can't keep the pace with these divine powers on his own. As Goku and Vegeta launch a combined Final Flash and Kamehameha, the android stands his ground. He's been heavily modified to absorb raw ki, taking the devastating attack head on and completely absorbing the blast. Consuming that divine energy causes his power to spike astronomically, pushing his ki to a level far beyond the Saiyan duo. Just as Cell cracks his neck and prepares for the next round, the cavalry arrives. Androids 17 and 18 look to settle their own score with their former captor, but Cell swats them away effortlessly. Krillin attempts to intervene to save his wife, only to find himself completely paralyzed by Cell's death beam. Piccolo's attempt is next, but he meets the exact same fate, getting knocked out without Cell even breaking a sweat. Vegeta attempts to force his way back into the fight, but the God Ki Cell has absorbed makes his defense impenetrable, and within moments the prince is left out for the count, leaving Goku as the last man standing. They continue the struggle, but it's a losing battle. Goku's strikes are effectively bouncing off the android. Just before the finishing blow can land, Gohan touches down on the battlefield, telling his father to stand aside. Cell's long-awaited revenge can finally begin, but his satisfaction is short-lived. This isn't the Gohan he remembers. The hybrid Saiyan is now able to effortlessly parry Cell's assaults and reciprocate with even greater force. The challenge actually ignites Cell's warrior spirit, but his inherent arrogance starts to become his undoing. He is completely unable to grasp the sheer scope of Gohan's progression. While they both seem to be reaching a point of exhaustion, Gohan has much more in him than Cell does. The realization that he's come this far only to face another failure sends Cell into a blind frenzy. He begins charging an apocalyptic beam ready to wipe out the entire universe, but the rest of the Z-Warriors refuse to stay down. They launch an onslaught of Ki Blast, forcing Cell to dissolve his own attack just to survive the barrage. Seeing the window of opportunity, Goku and Vegeta push their pride aside and fusing to Gogeta.
I didn't want to have to resort to this again! Bring it!
The fused warrior dives into the middle of the battlefield, keeping Cell completely occupied and off balance. This creates the opening for Gohan, who has been quietly gathering every last drop of his energy in the background. Once he gets the signal, Gohan lunges back into the arena and unleashes a final definitive Kamehameha. Gohan pours everything he has left into the strike, vaporizing Cell and his core and ending the threat for good. The creator has a plethora of more stories, all contained in the same exact universe. So stick around, we're going to be checking out those in a later video. This next scenario takes us back to the Tournament of Power, with one major roster change. Instead of turning to Frieza, Goku remembers how quickly Cell was able to evolve during their original battle. Knowing that those Saiyan cells mean his potential is practically limitless, the decision is made. Cell is resurrected for a 24-hour fight for Universe 7. As the teams scatter across the arena, Cell attempts to reform that old family dynamic by following androids 17 and 18, but both of them want absolutely nothing to do with him, and quickly ditch him to find their own opponents. Left to his own devices, Cell eventually crosses paths with the Trio de Danger. He intercepts Goku's fight, taking over the match himself. The bio-android's power scales rapidly as the battle intensifies, and he eventually knocks all three of the brothers outside the ring. His victory is short-lived. Brienne and her squad immediately launch an assault on Cell, who reciprocates with a verbal and physical lashing, belittling their concept of love before sending him out of the ring. The brief moment of silence that follows gives Goku a chance to acknowledge just how much Cell has progressed in such a short window of time, but the praise is cut short when Frost blindsides them. At first, Cell is stunned, genuinely believing he's looking at a modified version of Frieza. Cell's exponential growth has made him a monster. and he dispatches Frost with relative ease. Cell's continuous victories over the other universes eventually draws the attention of the Pride Troopers. Sensing the android's malicious nature, Dispo rushes in, and Cell quickly finds himself unable to track the Trooper's extreme speed, forcing Goku to intervene to even the odds out, and together they manage to overcome Dispo. However, before Cell can secure the elimination, Jiren saves his teammate, sending Cell flying with a single blow. That massive power gap between them bruises Cell's ego. Even with his rapid growth, he's still standing in the shadow of a being who views him as completely powerless. As the tournament reaches its peak, the narrative follows the familiar path of Goku and Jiren's clash. While that's happening, Cell finds himself locked into a battle with Kale and Caulifla. He manages to outmaneuver Caulifla, and true to his nature, he begins to torture her while she's down. The sight of her friend's suffering and her own perceived helplessness triggers something in Kale. She snaps, entering her legendary Super Saiyan state, and using Cell as a literal ragdoll. Once again, Goku has to step in to keep the unstable Kale back, but her energy eventually begins to erupt across the arena, forcing Jiren to intervene and silence her with one punch. Seeing someone exert that kind of absolute authority over a battlefield enrages Cell. Not only does he fear that power, but he craves it. It seems as if this is still actively being worked on, but I would love to see where this would go from here. And that's all for today. Thank you all for the support on these videos. It's truly appreciated. I have plenty more of these custom battles to go through, so keep an eye out for your own scenarios in the upcoming episodes. And keep an eye out for a community post where I ask for your guys' custom battle codes. The next one on the list is an insane retelling of Revival of F that absolutely shocked me with its quality. If you don't believe you can make a good story with this game's dialogue choices, you're going to want to stay tuned for that one. Drop a comment below with your theories on these timelines and let me know which of today's stories were your favorite. As always, I'm your local overanalyzer Artellings, and I hope you have yourself a damn good one.